Hi everybody, Lisa Sabaniak here from lifelikeyoummeanit.com, and I thought we would talk today on our first YouTube live in absolute ages about whether you are creating your own reality. And hopefully this will make a lot more sense as we go on today. But essentially, we are all looking at the world through our own kind of tinted glasses. So our belief systems that we have in place, our beliefs about what life is supposed to be like at certain ages, when we're supposed to have children and get married, and all of the kind of pre-constructs of what that's supposed to look like, and what our career is supposed to be, and when we're supposed to have it, and how much money we're supposed to be making, and all of that, along with our beliefs about money, right? But also our beliefs about ourselves. So we have deeply rooted beliefs about our capabilities, our strengths, our weaknesses, our beliefs about what we deserve, what our worth and our value is, right? Those types of things really impact how we see the world around us. So as humans, we tend to find evidence for what it is that we truly believe all around us. Now, that might not be actually true evidence, but it is the way that we are looking at all of the experiences around us, the actions and reactions of other people, for example. And we're taking all of that information into our brain and we're sorting that information. And a huge part of how we are going to choose to see those actions and reactions of others is going to be dependent on our beliefs about ourselves and of our environment as well. So for example, I grew up in an abusive home. So if you've been following me on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, anything like that, then you might know my story. But I grew up from the age of 2 until 12 in a very physically, emotionally, and even sexually abusive home. And one of the most difficult things for me to get over was the emotional abuse. So yes, obviously it's very devastating to be beaten and to think that you might not survive the night and not know when you walk into the door every day whether or not you're going to walk back out the next day. That obviously takes a real psychological toll as well. But I'm talking about the actual words that were spoken to me, because just about every single day, my abuser told me that I was ugly, stupid, worthless, and useless. Nobody was ever going to love me, and I was never going to amount to anything. And those words became my truth. Even though I knew what was going on in my home was not right, I always knew that it was wrong. Those words still became my truth. And that meant that long after we left that abusive person and found safety and created a loving, safe space for me to live in, I continued that mantra to myself. So I continued that emotional abuse on myself. And because it had really, truly become my truth, I chose to see the evidence to support it everywhere I looked. It didn't necessarily mean that other people were actually treating me with the intention of treating me like I was ugly, stupid, worthless, useless. Nobody was ever going to love me and I was never going to amount to anything. They may not have had that intention at all. In fact, they may have been saying very nice things. They may have been there supporting me, being a shoulder for me to cry on. Right? They could have been doing all kinds of things that were actually very supportive and teaching me, if I chose to see it, a completely different lesson. Right? They may have been showing me that there was no evidence for that horrible mantra playing in my head at all. But that's not what I needed to see. That's not what I wanted to see. What I actually wanted to see was evidence that I was right. And so that's what I chose to see in everything going on around me. It meant that the exact same experience that myself and a dozen other people standing in the room could be experiencing, I was going to experience it differently. And in fact, truth be told, every single person in that room experiencing that experience is going to experience it differently, because we're all doing this. We're all bringing our past experiences, our baggage, if you will, our need to see things in a certain way. We're all bringing that to every moment of our lives. We're all looking for our own evidence to support our own beliefs. So there might be a handful of people in that same room that believed the exact opposite to what I believed at that time. They may have known their value and known their worth. They may have known that they are so lovable because they found the way to love themselves at that moment. And so them experiencing the exact same thing as me would be a completely different experience in their lives than what I was choosing to experience. So I hope that that makes some sense. So now we can break it down a little bit more and say, well, why would I be looking to experience the evidence for this horrible mantra? Why would I not choose to actually find my own beauty, my own worth, my own value, learn to love myself? Well, I did eventually, but in the time that I wasn't ready for that, it is a very strange setup that we create for ourselves that involves a comfort zone, right? Hearing those words and becoming my truth for so long, even if you just take the 10 years of the actual abuse itself and you don't look at the other remaining decade or so that I did it to myself afterwards, if you just look at that 10 years, especially in your formidable years where you're learning to understand who you are and your place in the world, that has a real detrimental effect. But it also becomes all you know. It becomes your comfort zone. And if you're going to have a comfort zone that places you here in this horrible place where you degrade yourself, where you don't allow yourself to celebrate any success because you really don't believe you deserve it, and you really believe that people are mocking you behind your back, waiting for you to fail, and you know that you're going to fail because it's only a matter of time, that is your comfort zone. It was for me. That was absolutely 100% where I was comfortable being. And so every single time that I was moved out of my comfort zone, every time that somebody was being nice to me, complimenting me, every time I was excelling at something that I felt amazing, that was out of my comfort zone. And at that time, because I was just a teenager when we left, 12 years old, really, when we left. And so, my understanding of the world and my place in it was very naive at that time. There was a lot of learning and growing and healing that I needed to do. But because of that, because of where I was and all of my experiences before, there was no pushing outside of my comfort zone into a stretch zone. That didn't exist. It went from comfort zone to panic zone. Anything outside my comfort zone was sheer panic. So when somebody would approach me and say, "Oh, Lisa, I love your hair today," I could not accept that. That was so far out of my comfort zone that it put me into a state of panic. And my only way of bringing myself back into my comfort zone was to choose how I was going to respond to that. Pardon me. And my choice was to bring myself back into my comfort zone, which means to do that, I had to choose to see that compliment as backhanded. I had to choose to see that person as not giving me a true compliment, but putting me down in some way. And of course that person wasn't. Of course that person had pure intentions and really liked my hair that day and really just took the time and the effort to let me know that. But I couldn't handle hearing that. It didn't compute with my belief, my truth of myself, right? If I had beautiful hair that day, then that went into complete contradiction with my belief that I'm ugly, for example. Right? I didn't know how to wrestle that in my mind at that tender age and with the experiences that I had had at that time. So the only way to do it was to take myself out of panic and back into comfort. And I did that by not just repeating my mantra over and over again, but I also did it by trying to find the evidence for it in this compliment. And so the only way to do that, because this person is being genuine, this person is being kind, they really do mean that I have nice hair, I had to then break that down. So what this would look like in my mind is, why is she choosing my hair to compliment me? What's wrong with my hair? Does it have a smell? Right? Give it a smell. Oh my God, it's probably sticking up all over the place, right? She's saying, oh, nice hair, Lisa, instead of nice hair, Lisa, right? See the difference? She was saying, nice hair, Lisa. I was hearing, oh, nice hair, Lisa, because that's what I needed to hear. And because I chose to see that as evidence, then that just built up this belief of mine that I'm ugly, for example, right? Well, I must be ugly if people are going out of their way to mock my hair. Because I couldn't understand how I could be ugly with beautiful hair. Those two things were not able to be linked together. I couldn't have both. And it couldn't be possible that beautiful hair meant that I was beautiful, because my truth was that I was ugly. So can you see now how that could be interpreted and spread across every avenue of my life? Every part of my existence would do this with every single action of every person in my life, whether it was directed at me or I just happened to be in the room to witness something. And because I chose to see it as evidence, it backed up my belief system. It was only once I was able to be at a point where I was ready to truly challenge those beliefs, that I was ready to create a stretch zone. When I was ready to say, just because I'm coming out of my comfort zone doesn't mean I have to panic. There is a place of leeway here. I'm just going to step outside of it for just a moment. That's all I need. Just a moment to step outside and see what happens, knowing that I'll be safe and I can just run right back into that comfort zone if I need to. And started really challenging each and every one of my beliefs, forcing myself to take people's word for it, to say, you know what, when somebody says something, I'm going to believe them. And that goes for the positive and the negative. So when I would have a boy that was interested in me, or as I grew up, a man that was interested in me, and he was showing me all kinds of signs that he's not somebody who's going to respect me, not because of me, but because he doesn't respect women, because he's cheated many times before. Why would I be any different? Right? The old me would sit there and say, if this person could love me, then I must be worth loving. Instead of seeing this person at face value and saying, he's telling you, Lisa, that he's not capable of giving you what it is that you need. If you really believe that you deserve better, you'll listen to him and don't take him up on the opportunity. But of course, that would be too far out of my comfort zone. I needed, at certain times of my life, to believe the myth. I needed to believe that I wasn't worth anything different. And so I would date the undateable, right? I would date the person that would tell me straight up that they are really not in a position to be available emotionally or sometimes even physically, right? That they were not looking for something that was serious. And me being in a position of wanting to go outside of my comfort zone, wanting to find my actual worth and value, mistakenly thought that if I put my trust into this person and they're able to love me and not cheat on me and treat me like a queen that I deserve to be, then that must mean that I'm worthy. Right? And I had to learn how to look at that like a big old mirror in front of my face and say, no, Lisa, you've got to believe this person. And you deserve to have better than that. So no matter what you're feeling towards this person, they're being open and honest and telling you they're not the right person. Believe them. Right? It's not about being able to change them that will create your worth and value. It's about believing them and walking away that shows your worth and value, right? Finding somebody that is emotionally and physically available, right? Because that's what you deserve. And when somebody says, Lisa, your hair looks beautiful today, believe them. Does it really matter? Is what I started asking myself. Does it really matter if that's an underhanded comment? If they really didn't mean the compliment and they really are saying, nice hair, Lisa, I choose how I'm going to respond to that. And when I learned to find my actual value, I learned to choose, no matter what the situation is around me, how I'm going to interpret and how I'm going to react. And you're doing it as well. You just don't necessarily realize that you are. And this is a really difficult one to grasp, especially when there are people around that maybe have learned to get what it is that they need by treating others poorly. You know, whether it's your boss or a coworker or your partner, right? There are lots of people around there in our lives, unfortunately, that have learned that for them to feel empowered, it's by squashing somebody else, right? Or they've learned that how to get what they need, they have to not give a damn about what anybody else wants, about their feelings or how it's going to affect them. And they've chosen that. But that means that you have the choice that when they are saying something or doing something that is very clearly not taking you into account, you have the choice on how you're going to choose to react to that. Of course, it may seem hurtful. Of course, it's horribly selfish for them to do that. But understanding that they're not doing that to hurt you, they're doing it to help themselves. Their complete disregard for you and how their words or their actions are going to affect you have absolutely nothing to do with you and everything to do with how they've decided to go about meeting their needs. So when you actually get that and you really start to believe that and understand that at your core, then it really helps you to be able to react to anything that anybody throws at you in the positive, not seeing it as evidence that you're not worthy of being treated well, but evidence that other people actually go about doing things in their lives to serve them, not to take into account other people. And that it's actually fairly rare that people, especially in the moment when they're feeling loss or sadness or anger or even extreme happiness, that they go into their own internal bubble and they're not really reflective on how things are affecting other people. And we could call that selfish. We could just call it human nature because I do it too. You do it too. I don't mean any harm by it. But when we're able to actually know our own worth and value so much, we don't look at that as evidence of how great or small we are as people. We're simply looking at it as how that person is choosing to behave in that moment. And I choose to not have any drama in my life because for me, I learned that I was a real drama maker. That was one of the ways that I got my needs met, needs for attention, and also this evidence that I was finding, right? That's drama to take a compliment, Lisa, your hair is beautiful today, and choose to look at it as, nice hair, Lisa. That's creating drama where drama didn't exist. And I choose to live a drama-free life now, no matter what other people are trying to throw at me. And I don't do that by sitting there saying, oh, they really love me and they meant the best. No, they may have said some very hurtful and horrible things, right? Living in a social media existence, we get that all the time. I get all the time on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook even, some comments that are less than ideal, not things that you're hoping to wake up in the morning and see. But I choose to not create any drama over them. I choose to actually look at them from that person's perspective and say, wow, this person ironically is probably somebody that needs my help the most. Usually the ones that are so resistant are. right? They're the ones that need help getting over something. They need a pat on the back, a shoulder to lean on, something. Right? They're usually the ones that reach out with insults and things of that nature. And it's not about me, it's about them. And I do that on a business perspective, but I also do that on a personal level as well. So, in that way, I create my reality. It doesn't matter other people's actions. I can't control them. I can't control what other people say or do or think. I can't control the way they're going to react to me, the way they're going to choose to interpret my words or my actions. I don't have any control over any of that. The only thing I have control over is myself, how I choose to act and react. And if I know that I've come from a place of service, where I have had an open heart when I have said something or done something, then I've given my best. I've put my best foot forward. And if somebody else chooses to see that in the negative and create some drama around that, that is their choice. It's not going to affect how I see my reality, because I know that I am creating my own reality. And if I choose to dwell on that and see the negative and create the drama around their response, then I'm choosing my response to them. I'm choosing that negativity. And I'll set my whole day up to be in the negative, because energy flows where attention goes. Right? So if I allow somebody else's comments or actions to really get down on me, then I'm setting myself up for a whole day of relative failure, in essence, right? Things are probably not going to go the way that I had hoped. And that's not because I don't deserve it. And it's not because, there's other people that are trying to hurt me, but it's because of the way I'm choosing to look at the world that day. And that comes down from that one decision earlier in that day. So even when somebody comes at me with big words of anger and hate, and has all kinds of profanity or anything else that they're coming at me with, I always look at it as, this is them. This is their issue. This is how they're choosing to deal with something that's very personal to them. And it reflects big time on the beliefs that they have about themselves. Because stress and anxiety and this kind of lashing out, to me, is a reflection of how our reality is not matching with our vision. And a lot of that has to do with our beliefs. We can be just as thrown out of kilter when we believe something negative about ourselves and somebody says something positive, as we can when it's reversed. If we're thinking something positive and we're very happy about something and somebody chooses to point out the negative, right? We have a choice on how we're going to react with that. So my challenge for you today is to take a look at how you are acting and reacting, not just to yourself, but to other people, how you're viewing their reactions to you, and also how your beliefs are manifesting in how your day is going. Taking a really hard look at whether or not you really believe that you have worth and value and that you deserve the best. Or if you were more like my younger self and you believe that you are actually worthless and useless, stupid, maybe even ugly. And if that and those feelings, those beliefs are actually driving you and getting in the way, creating your reality, influencing the way that you are choosing to react to other people and act yourself. And if so, and you're looking for some support, some help with that, then subscribe to this YouTube channel or join my free Facebook group, The Life You Deserve, or check out my website, www.lifelikeyoumeanit.com, and get in touch. See if any of the numerous things that I do to help others, both free and at small charges and larger charges, everything under the sun, to be available for people of all financial needs and backgrounds. And see if I can actually offer you some help, a different perspective. For example, I've got a 30-day challenge that is always ongoing, and it's free. It's completely and totally free, and it's designed for your emotional well-being. is designed to change the way that you experience your life. Great place to start. So I welcome your comments. I see that nobody has joined me on here live today, and that's okay. I know that you're coming from all over around the world, so it's the middle of the night for a lot of my followers. So feel free to comment on this, and I will get back to you. We'll have a nice discussion about this. Bless. I hope that you enjoyed.